Good afternoon to all of you. My name is Sanjay Vashisht and I am from First Green Consulting. Today we are having this webinar session on bankability and finance for solar projects. And with me, we are having Mr. Kalpesh Jain. He is from Sun Addition Infra. They have also a rooftop division in which he is the director. Maybe Kalpesh will introduce during his talk further about details of their company. We have been doing a lot of webinars during this COVID period, and from participants we were receiving a request that we should have a session on bankability and finance. And with that line, we conceived this as a wonderful topic. And Kalpesh is one of the experts with me on this topic, and we are sure that this webinar will benefit you guys in terms of developing your knowledge that how to achieve a financial closure for your solar project. It's a very important milestone in a solar project, so we are sure that you will get benefited about it. A little bit about First Green Consulting. We are a consulting firm and we believe in knowledge base. So we share knowledge through these type of training programs, webinars, and so many other activities. Of course, we do consulting. We have experience of doing utility scale as well as rooftop projects. We work in India, Nepal, Middle East, Africa, and a couple of other regions. And our experience is that Indian experience, if you implement in elsewhere, it is a wonderful thing. We have been quite forefront to bring the cost of solar down. So today, cost of solar is less than grid parity, and that brings a lot of experience to the Indian EPC players as well as consultants. So we as well. We also have one more division, that is green building certification, and on our credit we have some 39 buildings which are platinum certified. So we have got two practices. One is the green building practice as well as the solar practice. I will not take much time about the building part, but let us move to the agenda of today's webinar. My talk will be more on how to develop a bankable project. What all goes if you want to develop a project which is bankable, how to achieve financial closure, what are the steps in achieving the financial closure and raising the debt and equity for a solar project, what are the expectations of the lender, and what are the views of the project developer. So two have different views, and we have to bring them at a common platform. Of course, Kalpesh will take his session on what are the trends in financing, what type of financing options are available, how the credit appraisal goes, and the PPA is a very important aspect in solar project, and for that purpose, he would also share with you that what all you need to achieve a bankable PPA. So these are the aspects in short we will be covering in today's talk. Please keep asking your questions to us through the chat box in our webinar portal. And just to give you idea that these presentation made by me and Kalpesh will be available end of the webinar on our website. So don't worry about asking those type of questions whether you will get a presentation or not. We are also recording this webinar, so in future if you want to refer this webinar as a video file, you can also access that as well through our website. About the agenda of my talk, I will be speaking more on the why solar projects struggle to achieve financial closure. what are the issues. I will also speak about the non-recourse finance. We will also talk something about what is the lender's view. Payment security is a major issue, so we will discuss about those aspects also, how you can ensure that there is a payment security. Then of course bankable PPA. So what are those features and how the project risk assessment is carried out to achieve the financial closure by the lender. So those things will be taken care. We have been working with many banks and financial institutions as lenders engineer. So the project appraisal on behalf of the lender is critical. And if you develop your project and if it is assessed the way lender requires it, then you can cut short your time to a minimum level. So that's the reason it is important that you have to have your documentation in such a way that it doesn't go back and forth. Otherwise people keep wasting time in providing documents, and it becomes non-ending process, and you end up that the project timelines have passed away and you've got penalties and other things. So of course we will share our experiences on that angle as well. So what basically lenders ask you are a couple of questions. So what are those questions? Whether the project is of sufficient size, especially if you are going to any lender, his minimum ticket size is 1 megawatt, and you want to do, let's say, rooftop projects. So then you have to bundle multiple projects. If it is a ground-mounted project, then probably size will not be an issue. Larger the size, then you got the larger fund requirement, and that is actually better to the guys who are giving you funds. And the next question which they ask is that will the revenue from the solar project will support the debt repayment? So basically there is a term which is known as DSCR, debt service coverage ratio. So you have to justify that project will have sufficient cash flow so that it can make the returns of the project in a way it is required. At times we keep approaching banks that we want to do a project and please give us funds. And the next question comes is, we need it. Where is the PPA? Then we say, oh, hamara baat ho gaya, PPA ho jayega. So that doesn't work. What work is, you should have a bankable PPA. Especially many times people keep struggling because these days not only it is the PPAs which are government sale, but there are PPAs which are done with third party or open access sale, and you don't have even a PPA and you start running around the bankers and all for financing. So that's not the right. You need to have the PPA term sheet at least signed so that you can discuss your project with them. If you have done your project at such a low price that you are not able to justify the adequate cash flow which can support the project repayment, then it becomes a challenge. Okay, the bankers are also equally concerned whether the project will be executed with a competent person or not. So there should be a good EPC who has adequate experience and they are doing it. But at times in this spree of reducing cost, we sign multiple EPCs, then the banker will ask you, okay, who will give the performance guarantees and warranties of this asset, because everybody has, civil guy has done civil work, the electrical guy has done electrical work, and there is nobody. So in that case, you need to have the EPC management. So there are contracts like a single EPC or a multiple or a unbundled EPC contract. Of course, the banker would also like to ask you that do you have a reasonable experience as project? You may be new for solar, but you should show that you have got some experience to develop any type of project from your different domain as well. So those are the conditions which are typically asked. So there are two major concerns. What are those two major concerns? Is let me just go back. Oh, there is some autoplay in this. So the banker will have majority of questions around two things: that the location at which you are installing is having adequate solar radiation data, or it is having reasonably justifiable solar radiation data. So solar radiation data is available from the satellite sources, and generally you end up in a situation that you don't have a sufficient length of on-site recorded data. So it is better you travel around 30, 40, or maybe 50 kilometers of your project vicinity and collect some local data as well. It will strengthen your case to the banker in terms of their justification that whatever yield analysis you have done is correct and it is in line with what is being forecasted through the satellite based data. Government of India has also installed a lot of ground mounted data recording stations, and you can also collect even those data also for justifying your solar radiation levels and the yield predicted by you, because yield is the main important part for prediction of your generation and prediction of your revenue. So those are the things which are asked. There are many other things, we will discuss that later, but these are the things. The second thing is strength of PPA. So how strong is the PPA? I will give you example like a PPA of NTPC, which is signed by NVVN, NTPC Vidyut Vyapar Nigam. Okay, and PPA by UP Discom. Okay, you will find that the NVVN PPAs are less than 3 rupees, and UP Discom PPAs are 3.5 rupees. Still, people find that those PPA, state PPA. I'm just giving example of UP for your sake, but any state you go, there you will find almost the central government PPAs and state level PPA. There is a difference of more than 50 paisa in terms of the price discovery through reverse bidding. This is because the off-taker risk is higher in case the PPA is signed by the state government or the state discom. If it is SECI or NTPC, then those PPAs are considered as strong PPAs. Similarly, if you are doing rooftop, if it is AAA, triple B, B plus, or those type of credit rating of buyers, those off-takers are also considered as strong PPA. In early 2016-17, India was installing projects through one more route, that was REC route projects. So there was a revenue through sale of power to the state discom at APPC, average pool power cost, and there was an additional revenue through sale of RECs, renewable energy certificates. So the problem was that the sale of electricity will give you less than 3 rupees per unit as revenue, which do not suffice to meet the requirement of your stable cash flow to meet the debt repayment of the lender. And when you add the REC revenue, it justifies. But the problem was that RECs, whether the states will be able to buy RECs, or the RPO compliance will be enforced, because it is a state subject. So that was the challenge, and much of the REC-based projects could not achieve the financial closure, and most of the projects which are developed by the developers under the REC route were done through the normal debt. It was not a project finance. So they raised some debt through collateral securities and so many other things. But the financial closure was very tough for these type of projects, because there was a uncertainty in the majority part of the cash flow. That was the cash flow through REC. At that time, the REC revenue was about 9 rupees per unit. So that was a challenge. So it makes a difference. The next issue is that, where all you can get funding. So you get funding through international agencies. You also get funding through some supplier led funding. Maybe the module supplier and inverter supplier also give you a part of equipment based lease type of options, and you get funding from domestic banks as well. So of course the funding from international financing, like donor related fundings like ADB and World Bank, IFC, they are also available. Then you have got your regular banks, the full list of banks and other institutions who are providing you funding. Maybe Kalpesh will take care of this. So he will discuss which are the sources you get more funding. But these are 3 major categories by which you can get funding for your project. Now the lender's view is the first thing which we discussed was the PPA type. What type of PPA is available? So you have got a PPA that is dependent on the off-taker and who is very strong and those conditions, and he has international rapport. So those are the conditions, is the first requirement of all lender. Then the second requirement is the economic viability. So the lender will ask about the EBITDA, DSCR. He would also ask you about the IRR, LCOE, levelized cost of energy. So these are the parameters or benchmark which are asked by the bankers, and you should satisfy. The purpose is that your project is financially viable and is having stable cash flow by which he will be able to recover his money. Please understand, your stake is 30% and the lender's stake is 70%. So he has all the rights to ask you about these tough questions. And when they evaluate these IRR, DSCR and all those things, you will be giving your calculation based on P50 or P75 level of data which you have, solar radiation data, and based on that you will predict your yield. And banker will ask you P90 or P95. So there lies the thing that your IRR you are showing at 16% and banker is showing at 11%. So that makes huge difference. Please ensure that at least your project should be viable at P75 or P90 level of data comfort levels. Of course, banker will also ask you that what additional comfort you want to give in terms of his debt recovery. So, at times he will also ask you the collateral security. That is not exactly the project finance, because you cannot give your assets to the banker. So you can give once or twice, but you cannot have a sustainable project lead based on that method. Of course, your own credibility and how you have a track record of project execution and how you have been paying your previous debts is also one tough question which banker will ask. They will also ask you about the source of solar radiation data, additional data, the level of confidence in terms of P75, P90 and all. Whomsoever is your EPC player, what is his track record, what type of equipments you are buying, whether the technology is established technology or it is a new technology. So all those questions you should be prepared while developing your project. Just to give you some example, there is a year-on-year variation in the solar radiation data. For example, in this case, the solar radiation data is ranging from 1900 to 2100 for a given location in Rajasthan. So what you can see is, firstly, all the free sources data, you will have the data for 1 year only. If you go to 3-tier or Solar GIS, you will get data for long term, 10 years, 15 years, or 20 years. EMY data you can get. So if you are able to get a long term data, then you can do a forecasting of your generation also, and can show a stable forecast of your generation. So that is equally important. So just you do analysis based on a meteor norm, probably they will ask you more and more questions. You have to have data sources, and that too year-on-year data. If you are able to give, that will give you a better comfort to the banker, and you should have a historical data and then forecast it based on the available data you have. One major aspect of your cash flow is affected in terms of how your project will be having the power evacuation. So power evacuation uncertainty means at which substation, if it is a ground mount project, at which substation it will be connected, and what are the intermittency of voltage regulations at that substation, or are there power tripping happening at that location. So these are the data of one of our projects, where the total number of breakdowns on month-on-month basis, and you can see the minutes for which breakdown happened. This gives you an idea that how much money you will lose. And if you are doing your cash flow, if you have not taken care of the power evacuation risk and the intermittency, or the voltage regulation at the given substation, then you may be generating, but that will not be evacuated. If you are not able to evacuate that power, then you have to lead to a situation that is known as curtailment. Curtailment means the grid is not there and you are not able to inject into the grid. Grid may be there, but maybe you have to also give the banker the load flow study. Grid is available, but the frequency is higher, and in that area there is no load, and you are not able to inject your electricity to the grid. Then also there is a curtailment. The moment there is a curtailment, it means you are not generating, and if you are not generating, it means your electricity is not being produced and your revenues are not coming. So please be careful that how important it is. If it is a rooftop project, then also please ensure that the guy's roof on which you are installing, how often his power is available, how often power is not available. If it is a situation, then there is a clause in the PPA. That clause is known as deemed generation clause. So maybe Kalpesh will explain his things is a bit better. So if it means that you may be if the building owner does not have power during a period when you are able to produce, and if he is not able to consume, then you have to have your PPA with a deemed generation clause. With deemed generation clause, you will be able to ensure that you are compensated for not producing because grid was not available. So it's a tricky situation, and it is a very tough question. You have to negotiate even with your power off-taker. Many of the earlier projects have not addressed the curtailment and deemed generation clauses, so it is important that this aspect is addressed. So what are those risks? I will just summarize those risks. These risks involve the power off-taker risk. So how strong is your power off-taker? Regulatory risk is also one greater risk. What does that mean is that if your state regulations are not strong. For example, I'll give you example that in Gujarat the PPA were executed, and after that there was a petition that we want to reduce the tariff from 15 rupees to 9 rupees or something, that these developers had a windfall gains because their cost was not that much, and it went to a petition, though it did not affect adversely to the developers. But at times you find that state discoms are renegotiating the PPAs. So that means the regulatory uncertainty will also affect you heavily. Generation risk is also a great risk which we discussed. That means sometimes this risk is associated with not so much confidence on the data which you are having. At times you may have the generation risk that your technology is not, and sometimes the power evacuation related issues also affect your generation. So those are the risk factors which you should address properly and quantify those risk factors and the appropriate mitigation strategy to those type of risks. Technology risk is yet another major risk in which you are trying to justify. If there is a new module technology, then probably vendor will have some apprehension. So there should be a reasonable capacity installed, and you should give the kind of comfort in terms of the credibility of your module and inverter suppliers. Especially, these days, many of the module suppliers have been facing problems. There are problems related to PIDs, potential induced degradation, and please ensure that those type of risks are properly addressed in your procurement of items. So that's the thing. And project execution is yet another big risk. Sometimes everything is good, but you have not received your permits and clearances. If it is a ground-mounted project, then there are risks related to conversion of land from agriculture land to a non-agriculture land. So those are the concerns which may delay you. Believe me, just this conversion will require you a lot of steps to be followed. For that purpose, you have to take NOC from the pollution control department, you have to take NOC from the fire department, you have to go to the archaeological survey department, you have to go to the forest department. So there are some 14 to 15 approvals required when you are doing a solar project. It is not, though we call it as a single window clearance, but believe me, you should be prepared to take those kind of pains if you are really doing a project, and it is part and parcel of the game. There are EPC related risks. Of course, we discussed the issue related to single or bundled EPC contract. Who will give the performance guarantees and warranties? How to address those type of things are also one concern when you are doing solar project. Now, this is a typical project financing structure, and what you have is a EPC company, okay, which is can be SPV or it can be a normal project company. So this company is having interaction with various other entities. So the first is the sponsor, means the agency who initiated the project. This is known as project sponsor. These are the people who put effort and develop the project and then raise debt as well as equity. Okay, their stake is their sweat equity in the project. So that is what the project, they at times contribute their equity also to remain in the project, and their intent is to try to control the project decisions as well. The next requirement is the investors who come and put the money in the project, which are bringing their equity and debt. That is brought by the lenders. So project sponsor, equity investors, and lenders. Okay, so they have their different roles. Then there are multiple agencies who come into the project. So which are those agencies? EPC contractor, O&M service providers, your DISCOM, which is the off-taker. There may be that you are selling the REC to NLDC or some other third party. So your REC purchaser also becomes one of the party. Then your technology provider, module and inverter equipment suppliers, they also become one party. So all these parties are to interact with lender. Means lender has a decision making power in finalizing these things. So lender has a big role to play. If you do not take into consideration the lender, he will raise so many questions, and sometimes it is such that you do not have a recourse of that requirement of the lender. So please ensure that you take into confidence the lender to manage this issue. Now I would like to explain you the step-by-step procedure how to achieve the financial closure. So the first requirement is that, you know, I'm sorry, there is some problem in my auto play. So anyway, so check if you really need equity. Sometimes actually you do not need equity, and if it is a small amount of equity, then you should assess your requirement whether you need that much of equity or not. Okay, so for example, we were doing some of the rooftop projects in Assam. There 70% of the project cost is funded by government as part of their subsidy, and balance is to be put by the party. But we were having our EPC margin and all, so those projects we did not go even for funding requirement, because we thought that no need to even have equity. Projects were executed through internal equity raising. So you need to see whether you need equity. If you need equity, then also please check whether you can get equity also or not. So that is equally important, and find out what are those gaps if you really want to get equity investment in the project. So few steps are, you know, first you should have your own capital, then the debtor will give you the debt, and he will ensure that, you know, you spend your money, and first your money is spent, then only he will start putting money into the project. So the lender will ensure that you put your money. So please ensure that you have something in your pocket or not. So understand the capital requirement. How much is the capital requirement you have? Are the project having some grants or some subsidy, or, you know, if you are not having that, and if you are asking for the equity investment also apart from that, please be prepared that those who are putting equity, they would like to have the right on the project. Okay, so if you are taking equity from somebody, then they will say that, okay, we would like to have the controlling stake. Then you will end up in giving your sweat equity stake only. So those are, you know, a few steps from the point of view of raising the equity to your project. And please ensure, you know, what kind of investment you are taking from the people, and is it really bringing some value to your project or not. For example, your equity investor may bring some value to your project in terms of his experience or his credit worthiness to even secure the debt. So those are the aspects you need to assess. The next aspect is, you know, assess the structure of the equity investment. What kind of structure you may like to have for your equity investment. So do you want the equity investor to remain there in the project, or after some time you want, you know, the investor to get out, or, you know, you how much stake they will take. So what will be the, you know, liquidation preference, or, you know, the redemption right to them. So those are the considerations which are required from the, you know, lender's point of view. Of course, you should align your market expectation also, because what kind of opportunity you are bringing on table, and that is making sense or not, that is equally important. So please ensure, you know, how you know, align your expectation with the equity investor, because he is coming as a co-owner of your project. Then the requirement is the loan. That is how you are raising the debt. The debt can be in the form of the term loan, bridge loan, or working capital loan. So make your debt requirement very clear. Sometimes the bridge loan is required, that you are getting some subsidy, or they there are viability gap funding in India. So those type of project get that much of money once they execute project. So for that purpose, you also need a bridge loan. If it is a large funding to the project, then there are multiple banks which come and provide you the funding. Of course, be prepared for some of the collaterals and securities. Though it is project finance, but still, the lenders ask for certain 10 to 15%, 20% collaterals. So be prepared that this pain also you have to face from the lender. Then the distribution of project revenues. So please explain to your lender how the project revenue will be distributed to the lender, and how the revenue will come. And first thing is the requirement of serving the O&M, and the second thing is, once you have the O&M things available with you, then whether you are able to serve the interest and other expenses, and then it comes the repayments or principal repayments. So those are things which are required. There are certain operating restrictions which are you have to comply if you are doing a project. Those operating restrictions are related to that if you are doing it, which is a project, you have to do it tactfully. The project should be meeting all rules and regulations. I'm sorry, this is auto playing, so this is the last slide, so you will bear with me. So you have to manage your requirements with the company. You have to properly get your audits done. You have to ensure that proper insurances are maintained. You have to also mention that your proper debt obligations are performed. And for a successful project, you have to have a third-party engineer, owner's engineer, and other people appointed. Thank you very much. I'm sure you may have benefited with my presentation. If you have questions, please keep posting them in the chat box. We will pick up it at the end of the presentation. Maybe jointly me and Kalpesh will take. Now I will make the Kalpesh as presenter so that he start his things. Kalpesh, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Ashish, and thank you, First Green, to give me to speak to your audience. I'm sharing my screen. Can you see my screen? Yeah.
Yeah, now it is visible.
Yeah, thanks. So I'll brief you, run you through my experience. So I'm Kalpesh Kumar. I'm the director at Sun Addition Infrastructure Limited. I'm looking at the rooftop and the rescue division of the group. So my presentation will be in few content. The first, I will discuss about the trend in the sector, from the historical to the current trend. Then we'll discuss the evaluation criteria. Many of the criteria Mr. Vasis has already discussed. Then the risk related to the project from a banker's point of view. and the credit appraisal process of theirs. And since IRDA and some banks are very much focused on the renewable, we have tried to write down the step-by-step process they follow and the documentation part, so that the viewers can understand what is the process happen at the IRDA. Then there are various international companies has given the line of credit to various banks and NBFC in India. We'll briefly touch upon them. And then we'll talk about the general terms and conditions when you are selecting a private PPA. So in the trend, earlier renewable sector, the country index was from 4 came down to 3. And this is mostly because of the various state policies we have in India. And especially in the rooftop, the net metering policies in the government side is making surprise to everyone. Like the Karnataka state has almost make a policy in such a way that the C&I segment, basically the consumer industrial segment, are not able to get the net metering and the process done. So that makes the sector a bit restrictive for the people to enter into. These are the policy constraints I'll discuss during the detail in the discussion of the slides. Another one is the government target of 175. I'm sure whoever is interested in solar is aware that the government has a very big target of achieving 175 gigawatt of project, out of which 83 is already installed by the renewable industry. Out of the 75 gigawatt, 100 gigawatt is from solar, which is again a very big amount. And we are still growing, and the way things are happening looks very difficult, but we hear continuously from government that we are hopeful that they will be achieving the target of 100 gigawatt of solar by 2022. Coming to the investment part, the sector has seen a tremendous interest from the various overseas investors. The FDI investment had also been grown over the period, and various people has came, whether it's a private equity finance company or many big corporate has started coming in. In the next one, the major entry of oil and petroleum giants has come in India, like the Petronas has acquired the stake in Amplus. Total is already in the market. Shell is also coming. So various petroleum companies are coming in India and acquiring the stake of the operating country or existing projects, so that they can get a baseline to start and grow thereupon. Briefly, I'm sharing the innovative finance also happening in the market. The renowned companies like NTPC, IFC have been doing the green bonds. They are also doing the masala bond and raising the funds of the for the renewable projects. Project finance is, I'm sure, many things has already been touched upon by Mr. Vashish. I'll also briefly share what are the companies and banks in India who are doing the project finance. Interest rate in general has been in the declining trend. That is not even in India, that is almost all over the world. Even there are various countries where the lending rate or interest rate is almost less than 0%, which means negative interest rate. So in India also, when the interest rate decline, there is good chance that you can get your debt at a lower rate, so which can increase your equity higher. So I'll touch upon the evaluation criteria. So mainly, whenever you sign a PPA or whenever you go for a solar, there are two type of client you will always find. One is a government client, wherein through tenders you are doing the bidding and winning the bidding and then signing the PPA with the government entities. Then the second one is a private entity, where you have to start from the scratch. You have to meet the organization from the small hierarchy to the high hierarchy, or maybe the reverse. And then there is this long and lengthy process to sign the PPA. So when you sign the PPA, the things when you go to a banker and you say, oh, I have a PPA with a government entity, then what is the view of the banker? It's different from what is the view of the banker when you go with a private PPA. So whenever you go to a government bank or a NBFC and you say that I have a PPA, then the first question they will ask whether the PPA, the off-taker is rated. The rating is very basic information which gives that how the off-taker is well possessed, how the financial of the off-taker are there. So in private case, if you are going below BBB plus rating company, then there are good chances that many of the banks and the FCFC will not like to look at it because they want their off-taker, because you are signing the PPA for 25 years. For next 25 years, you are going to take the money from them, and the off-taker should be good enough to survive for next 25 years to pay you continuously. So credit rating and the financial, first 2 points are very, very critical for a private company. But when it comes to government, many times the rating of those companies are not available. The financial also is not available. Like you go to a hospital, a government hospital, a big hospital, then you may not get the rating also because they are mostly funded by the government. The financial also will not be available because they are just doing the cash in and cash out entries. So in this scenario, banker is still looking at the government project positively because it's come with a government or a sovereign guarantee. So when a banker do evaluation, he look at the government more positively, despite the poor rating or no rating than the private. Payment security mechanism is the very, very important criteria which a bank look. Every PPA should have some of the guarantee in case of the default by off-taker, either through the form of letter of credit or the bank guarantees. The payment should come. In the private client, also it's very, very, very necessary. In private, there are people or the banks who are looking for 1 year of BG or LC guarantee, so that even if there is a dispute for a year, the payment is secured through the BG or LC. So payment security mechanism is one of the critical tasks which the bankers and the lenders evaluate at the time of doing the loan. Subsidy risk. So when you are targeting through a SECI project or a various other nodal agency project wherein you are getting a subsidy after completion of the project in the timeline. So there is 9 months timeline, 8 months timeline, 7-month timelines. You have to achieve the project closure by this time, then you will be. So many of the lenders are very cautious when they do the subsidy funding. The NBFCs who are not funded by the government, like the Tata and L&T, they many times try to avoid the subsidy funding. They said whenever subsidy comes, you can take it directly to your account. And when you bid for a project, you can assume that you may get the subsidy loan or not. So you have to have your own funds available to make sure that till the time subsidy comes, you are able to survive the project, make the enough contribution from your side, make the project timely completed, and then achieve the subsidy whenever it comes. Generally, subsidy comes in delay. That's the reason bankers and the lenders are very much avoiding taking the charge on the subsidy. Now, in the private case, there is no subsidy available, so there is no risk. You have to meet your timeline. So the timeline is critical rather than the subsidy. Now, there are some general criteria which each bankers look at it when they evaluate the project. One is the quality. I think many of the aspect Mr. Vasis has already shared. Like briefly shared that they may ask for the Tier 1 module if you are doing a project, because the mandate of the various bankers say that the off-taker or the developer should use the Tier 1 module. The quality of the inverter BOM should be standard. The technical design validation is also, bank have their own, their LIE, we call it Lenders Independent Engineer. They do their own analysis on the technical design of the project. They do study it properly, thoroughly, and say if there are any issues. So the technical evaluation will also happen of the project, and you should make sure that your product is almost utmost quality. Change in law, it's a very, very critical aspect, because whatever we are signing in today, the law can get changed in the future. There has been various instances where it has happened, and it can happen also. So 25 years of PPA, you must have a change in law concept. If there is a change in law which negatively impacting the project, then it should be clearly written that how it will be bear by the company or the off-taker. The things has to be clear in the PPA. In case of government PPA, mostly change in law comes under the headache of the off-taker. So the off-taker, whatever change in law, bear the cost. But in case of private, there are chances that private may not agree to such a change in law which affecting their costing and may not agree. So the change in laws in the PPA should be clear and must have. Event of default is a very critical aspect which bankers look at it. In case you are not able to complete the project on time, if you complete the project on time as well as not able to meet the subsidy, many aspects comes under event of default. You have completed the project, but the quality of project is not that good that you have been keep on getting the penalty from the government. So event of default is again a very critical point. You should in the PPA should thoroughly look at it and get agree when you sign the private PPA. Ownership, many PPAs give the freedom to the developer to sell the project at particular time. Some say after 1 year, some say after 5 years, some say after 3 years. So you should have a clarity. If you are long run, you are wanting to just own the project for a few years and want to sell it out, then you must look at the ownership clause very properly and understand it. Legal aspect is a banker's favorite. They would like to see the title of the land is clear. Lender should have the specific right in case you are not paying. They should have a charge to take the charge from you, sign a substitution agreement with the off-taker and the client, and do the PPA. So nowadays banks are very critical on those rights which they want in all these scenarios. Now coming to the risk. So I broadly told you the evaluation criteria on what are the basic criteria when you go and meet the banker first time you look at it. As and when you keep on discussing the following criteria which banker at the start would like to understand. One is a completion risk. If the project is not completed on time, then there are various risks, and who will take the risk? The lender wants the risk has to be minimized to the certain extent. Your past credential of executed project can mitigate this. You can have an insurance on issues like which you have not faced. The second will be if you are able to complete the project, but due to external reason the cost get higher, then either you should bear the cost or you should have a watertight EPC agreement with your EPC contractor so that the cost shouldn't go high. Performance is not proper. So you have completed the project on time, you got the subsidy and everything, but the performance of the project is not right. The PR test is not accurate. Then also there is a cost which you have to bear over the years. So that's the reason they keep the lender's engineer on your head to make sure that whatever plant you are putting up, it's on good quality. The another risk is that when the lender evaluate the proposal of yours, you look at the equity risk. In every project, you have to bring in your own money. Sometimes it's 25%, 30%, and 40% depend from different lenders. So when a lender see that okay, there is a say 100 crore of project and wherein the equity the promoter has to bring in is about 25 to 30 crore, you should showcase properly that you have the fund available with you through various sources to prove that the equity risk is almost negligible. This could be a major point in delaying or not taking up your proposal by the bank. So the equity risk has to be taken care and positively by the developer and share it with the lenders. Technology risk is again, I already told that the quality of the project should be perfect. The tier 1 vendors has to be there and all those things. Operational risk. So once you have put the project completed on time and the operation and maintenance started, so as a lender, he also want to see that how good or how capable you are to run the plant for next 25 years, which will lead to the continuous payment of the debt. So many times they want that even before signing or even before putting up the project, you should have the O&M agreement signed, and the credential of O&M agreement should be shared with them so that they can reduce the risk. Availability of grid. So apart from net metering, there are various places where the light or the grid availability is not there. That also one of the concern which affect the generation of the solar plant. Then there are general risk of liquidity, force majeure, solar policy, net metering, market risk, all depend. You can say that any of the risk can be a reason for a banker not to go ahead or not to give you fund. So you have to have all the things very particular, very proper, and should be shared with the bank in such a manner that they understand everything and they are able to pursue the funds. Like the solar policy in India, the solar policy has been changing in state to state, and it gets changed very quickly. The day you sign the PPA and the day you commission the project, there might be a change in solar policy, and which may hamper your existing plan and the future plan also. It may hamper your the revenue also. So by a lender, whenever he look at the project, he look at almost all the possibility to see that whatever funds he is giving, he is able to get back the money back to him. So these are the standard process which banker follow. First he will appraise the market, whether there is enough market, the people who is going, and the demand supply, the availability of the solar and everything is there, and then they will do the management appraisal. So you got the good off-taker, and the market and the availability of size, the rooftop place and everything is okay. Still they will do the management appraisal. So they will assess your capability as a developer, whether you have the bandwidth to do the project or not, whether you have the bandwidth to complete the project on time. If there are issues, are you able to handle it? Do you have the experience of solar to do the project? So they will look at the management appraisal also, apart from the regular project appraisal which they are doing. Technical appraisal. So the technical team of the bank, maybe a third party, will be assigned to look at the technical possibilities, and they may raise the question whether the technical project is technically viable or not. Finance appraisal. So after these three, they will do the finance appraisal. Like I have said, that equity risk also comes under this. They will assess that whatever fund commitment you are giving to the bank, will you be able to complete it or not? Your data should be proper enough to justify that you are able to infuse the funds and complete the project, and you are financially good enough to do the project. There are some process which IDA and various banks are doing, that you will have to prepare an information memorandum apart from the regular your DPR, detailed project report. Information memorandum along with the key document you will have to submit. Then they will start the approval process. Once whatever risk I have mentioned on the credit side, on the technical side, on the management side, all these are things that clear, then they will give you in principal terms, and then they will do the detailed term sheet discussion with you. There will be various clauses which may stop you to take the disbursement. Like they will have a clause like you will have a net metering approval first before taking the sanction. So all the possible clauses they will discuss with you and put in the sanction letter, and then the appraisal fees and PDC and PCC. So in my experience, I have seen that many times we get the sanction in 2 months, but to complete the PDC and PCC takes 3 to 4 months because of the clauses as mentioned in the sanction letters. This clause could be getting a net metering approval, getting a off-taker signature on the escrow agreement. So many times when you do with the government, some small data take so much time that you are not able to withdraw the funds despite you have the sanction in your hand. So these are the challenge which comes in a PPA when you are doing with private or government. The rating of the project is also a critical pass. Sometimes lenders ask us you to do the grading before the sanction, and sometimes they do after sanction within 6 months you can do. So in India, various line of credit is available. Like KFW has signed up with IDA for a 340 million of line, wherein Indra is doing at a favorable price than the other product, and this is for the rooftop. And SBI also had tie up with World Bank, and they have a 625 million line wherein they are providing a rooftop loan at a very good price, Right now they are doing at 0.5 to 0.75 plus base rate. So the RBI base rate is near to 7.25. So if you can able to target SBI, you can close your debt within the 8% range. The same with PNB, the similar line, but PNB is low compared to other banks, and it's taking too much time to get the mandate from or get the sanction from the PNB. Tata is also a good NBFC, and they got the Green Climate Fund. This also can be approached. They have a line and they are very eager to disperse those funds. So these are the general terms and conditions which I thought everyone should be aware when they are doing a project or when they are looking to sign a PPA with private parties. The capacity is one of the aspects which need to look at it. If you are signing for a 5 megawatt and you have multiple sites like 50 sites to manage with 100 kilowatt, it's a very, very difficult task to raise the bill every month, get for the payment, follow for the payment. So you should have internally a minimum size which you want to do. You can't do all the sizes. So internally you should decide what size you want to do. The rating of the client is critical, and the technology, the net metering and the solar policy of that particular state is something you should look at it before you sign the PPA. Many of the banks want that they should have a unhindered access to the site. So sometimes they ask for you to sign a lease agreement with the off-taker so that you can have the access to the land for next 25 years. Metering is something you have to define in your PPA, that how the metering and accounting will have. This will help you to have a proper billing at the end of the month. The termination of PPA. So whenever you are signing the agreement, think of the worst scenario and find out what will be the termination payment you will get or the bankers will get. Bankers is very much comfortable in case things doesn't go right and off-taker is ready to buy at a particular amount, then he's a bit secure that in case of things doesn't move, still he will get this termination payment. Bank guarantee is basically the payment security mechanism is you must have in your the plan, the PPA. You should have 3 months, 6 months, or 1 year maximum possible. You should get the payment security mechanism. So this is broadly on what a banker will look at it when they are looking at PPA. So this is all from my side.
Thank you, Kalpesh, for your valuable inputs. Wonderful. Let me see if we have got some questions from the participants. If there are. All of you can drop in your questions to Kalpesh or me, which we can address during this session itself. Currently, they have not asked a question, but Kalpesh, I would like to have a question with you, which is related to the collateral requirement. This is very tough time to any project developer that he cannot bring even 10 to 15% collateral and over and above 30% as equity. So what is your view? Like, are banks necessarily asking this, or if the project is having a very narrow margin line, then only they are asking this type of requirements?
So it depends on the rating of yours and the off-taker. And banker is always want to safeguard themselves in whatever way possible. And the passion or the habit of collateral has come from the traditional market which they have. Like in the earlier project, wherever when bankers were lending, they used to get the collateral. But when it comes to the special line of credit which they have got from World Bank, ADB, or any other banks, then they are not pushing them to get rigid on the collateral, but banker as a practice from their starting days to old days, they have been asking for the collateral, which is making a bit things difficult. But now the bankers are almost agreeing to go away with the collateral. But you are right that sometimes they want at least 10% of the collateral, so that when they put the proposal to the credit committee, they can assure that we have got something on paper as a collateral and they can push the project. So things are happening without collateral also, but whenever you go to a banker for his push to internal committee, he always wants some collateral to be there.
Okay, any specific difference between the financing of rooftop versus ground, especially like many of the participants are probably having interest on the rooftop C&I type of rooftop PPAs, because many new entrepreneurs are also coming up in this segment. So do you suggest that the banks like SBI, PNB, they are doing it, but what are the specific 2 or 3 things they should see? Because credit rating for all the C&I clients may not be possible. So how to achieve if the credit rating is not there with many MSMEs, then how to achieve the financial closure in this segment?
So I'm really saying that getting a financial closure is a very difficult time in current scenario. The bankers take a lot of amount of time to close the transaction. In rooftop especially, you have a very thin timeline. You in SECI you get 9 months. In REIL they give you 7 months only, and in 7 months you have to sign the PPA, you have to sign the financial closure, you have to do many things. In railway you got 8 months. So it's very difficult to close those things in 8 months, and the bankers are also very slow. So if you want to start something from your own, then you must think that you should be able to bring at least 50-60% of the capital of yours, so that you can complete the project on time, and then your financial closure happens, then you can get it refinanced from the bank. That's the best way to do it, rather than getting a project and going to the bank and doing it. It's just so much time from the banks, and the current state of the Indian banking industry also. Various NPAs, various issues, no one is looking to take the risks. So even the earlier the NBFCs were used to fund, like the L&T used to fund a good amount of rooftop finance and the ground mounted solar project. But after the Neeraj Modi episode and the issue with the NBFC structure, various NBFC has stopped funding the infrastructure project, especially the rooftop, which is very distributed. So you have very limited room to work with. You have one Tata which is doing good. You can go to SBI and PNB. If you have existing relationship with them, then it may be a bit easier. But if you want to start with a new line, then things will take time. So you will have to have your own capital in your pocket to do the projects.
Okay, though we are asked with few questions by our participants, some are asking that why rooftop schemes are not so popular. The reason is, of course, they are small capacity projects, and not many banks will be interested if the ticket size is less than a megawatt. Then Mr. Sandesh is asking, we want information that below 100 kilowatt does bank gives loan, and Kalpesh, probably less than 100 kilowatt loan is available, but what is your view? Less than 100 kilowatt, any bank is giving?
No, so what I want to say is that if you are doing a tender and you are getting some capacity, the lesser the capacity, if you are doing for 25 years of relationship with them, you can do the lesser capacity in one state, like you have in one city 5 capacities which are at 80 kilowatt. That's okay. But if you are spread across Rajasthan and doing a 5 megawatt project and you have 50 sites to do 100 kilowatt, then the post project process payment from everyone is very, very difficult. So the issue is that you should, whenever you start your own business, when you are looking at business, you must keep a threshold on the capacity. That's below this capacity I will not do. Otherwise, you will not be such a big number of assets you have. So that was the point I wanted to make.
Okay, I will have a last question of this session, which is, post-COVID, many banks will be facing a tough time, and they they will face already a lot of NPAs possibly. And so what is your view? Like, will this business be supported by financing community the way it was happening previously, or some new dimensions post-COVID will emerge in financing the renewable or solar projects?
So the time is tough, and people are looking at a business which is prone to COVID, and renewable is prone. And most of the assets, or the developer which have put, are generating the assets and they are getting the revenue, and the bankers are also getting their funds. So the issue is that you are not able to do the billing and payment might not be coming, but this is a segment which is prone to COVID, and definitely as the time will go ahead and things materialize, this sector will grow a much rapid pace than what they are doing it now. And looking at the banker side also, they have been funded various consumer finance, automobile component company, infrastructure, where things may take more time to materialize rather than the renewable. And government is also pushing the renewable because the sun is coming every day and you can generate the revenue every day. So my view is that the people or the investor who is looking to invest into a company or a project or an investment wherein they can foresee the revenue, I think renewable or the solar is a good opportunity to invest in. The initial time may take some time because bankers are also running at a small periods, and maybe 6 to, banker used to spend or till work till evening in the banks, but now they are forced to go out at 6 or 6:30, and even partially people are coming, some people are not coming, working from home. So once the things materialize, maybe 5, 6, 10 months down the line, then I'm sure the renewable is going to grow much faster than the other businesses.
Absolutely. Friends, the renewables are the reality, and so far we are not one 30% to our installed capacity, not even 10% of our energy. But once we reach to a level of 175 gigawatt targets, probably we will be crossing, more than 50% of our grid capacity as this segment grows. The rooftop as well as ground mounted, both segments are likely to grow. This is the segment which is most preferred segment by the investors. Why? Because I always say this to my clients: as long as sun is shining, your module will keep producing electricity. So as long as electricity is produced, it will be consumed by grid, because this is the sector and electricity demand will keep growing. COVID will not affect the electricity demand that way. And we are quite positive that we need to find out some new ways and means, but we also understand that the investors are also not getting some good projects into investments. So it is not like project developer are not getting funding. It is the same situation with the investors also. They are also looking for some good project. If we really develop a good project, then finance is not a problem. The only truth is that in the free of grabbing good project, become highly competitive, and our finances of the project makes it non-bankable. So be patientful so that you get a good PPA with a reasonable tariff, and I'm sure in future the developers will be developing better projects, and we will all grow. Thank you very much for participation in our webinar. Please keep visiting our site. We will be having more webinars as part of our COVID webinar series next week. Thank you very much, Kalpesh, for your valuable time.
Thank you.
Participants can further also ask their questions by sending us email. The details are there on our website. And we thank you very much for your patience. Thank you, Kalpesh.
Thank you.